Hello, my dear friends. I'm really excited. And hello, my colleagues, because today, I forgot that. Today we will speak about experiments in research. And I'm the researcher. That's why I hope that all of you are researchers as well, or maybe those people who are interested in that, or future researchers. It doesn't matter. But today we will talk about really interesting stuff, at least for me. And we will talk about that with a great person. I guess that some of you remember Takeshi from Kiev, from Krupa conference. But I always remember him also from my mind every time when I speak to my students and when I think about research, because he knows everything about experiment. So I don't want to steal a lot of your time, so I just want to remind you, first of all, that you are welcome to text your questions to the chat. I will read the most relevant of them, but I guess that today we will have a lot of time. That's why I will cover all of them, but I don't want to steal more of your time. I just want to welcome Takeshi, and I would like to say, first of all, thank you, because Takeshi has just morning now, and it's the start of the day. That's why he's sharing his best mood with us. Takeshi, hello, and could you tell us more about yourself? What are you doing right now, and what are the projects which you work now?
Yeah, good morning, Mike. Yeah, so, I'm just trying to wake up, so, get motivated first. So right now, I'm still working for the company called Age of Learning, which has the kids application called ABC Mouse. So right now, currently, I actually moved the team from ABC Mouse team to the ABC Mouse team was a kind of flagship product, right, for us. But I moved to the other product called the Mastery and Adaptive team, which makes the my Math Academy and my Reading Academy, which is built by the adaptive engine on the background. So it's very, cutting edge product. It's been R&D for a long time. But right now, my mission to join the team is now we want to focus this product to the consumer market. It's been tested in the school. It's definitely a great product for, the kids to learn the math, despite the, classroom environment. I'm sure that those students, prefer to play the game in the classroom, right? So that wasn't any issue. However, now we would like to bring this product to the consumer market. That means we gotta compete with all those kids games, right? The products like Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite, everything. So that's really been challenging. Yeah. Cool. That's where I am right now. At the same time, one of the things I probably talk to the Krupa. I'm still working on the kids recommendation engine, right? So that's difference for the grown up, for the children. For the children, I don't think we do have a really good recommendation engine. Of course that AI progress, like when you go shop Amazon, how that engine progress over the decades, right? Right now, I'm trying to go in the shop in Amazon. They would definitely recommend a couple of things. Oh, this is really interesting. Should I buy this or not, right? But for the kids learning specifically, we really don't have the right engine to do that. Of course, we don't want to, try to sell the product for the kids, right? So those Amazon engine may not be applicable, right? And some other company has a good engine, but not really for the learning. So that's always been a challenge, and that's still focusing on that too. Yeah.
Cool. It's quite interesting to listen to that. How do you do that? So could you tell us like the research phase, and how do you push that? How do you find and how you initiate these issues to think about these issues, Amazon and other huge companies?
Yeah, so basically the recommendation engine are typically viewed as a means of guiding user behavior, right? By presenting the content that is interesting and surprising and also useful for little kids, right? And as you guys know, today's children spend a lot of significant amount of time engaging with content, right? That includes large amount of variability, whether Netflix, YouTube, game portals, or websites, or whatever from the digital media does, right? So the challenge is the design portal and the metagame that aim to provide broad and rich learning experience for the children that are just right in terms of interest and the learning trajectory and helping set them for the academic success. So that's a challenge. So, you know, like I say, we are not gonna just recommend what you are good at. Let's say if Mike is really good at math, you know, should I keep recommending the math? Of course we should, right? However, at the same time, I want your knowledge to be broadened. So, sometimes we should bring other subject like, how about science? Mike, do you like this, right? So kids can kind of, find more topic to be interested in and try to expand their knowledge. So that's a kind of, the role of the recommendation. So of course, as a company, not just me as a UX designer or experience designer, of course, I work with the product designer and the product, people, product owners, product managers, and of course, researchers to, come together, all those, building the recommendation engine with, of course, they're using the big data too. Yeah.
Cool. Because honestly, all the suggestions which are from Netflix, I use Netflix every day. They're not that good, honestly. So they always ask me, could you please like or dislike the video which you watched? But after that, they recommend me, oh, I don't know why did they choose that. It's not the same. That's why even for the kids, especially if we are talking about the education, you will be my God. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with quite a wide question. How did change the experience of digital products for the last decade, and where does it move now?
Oh, that's a big question. That's a really good question. So, the decades, so, let's say 2010s, right? So I think, from the big change from my point of view as a user experience designer is definitely move from the desktop to mobile experience, right? And of course, the network speed, moved to 3G to 5G, and the data storage moved to the cloud. So those are probably kind of big elements, right? I still remember probably 10 years ago when we want to do the usability testing or some type of researches, all those, based on the desktop experience, right? So I remember still bringing, huge, couple of laptops or sometimes desktop to be tested. But right now, definitely our focus is mobile, right? So the way we conduct the usability testing, other, the studies definitely changed. So that's a kind of big change for me. That's the thing. And of course, 2010s, I would say a decade of phenomenal innovation. Like again, that largely by the transition from desktop to mobile user experience with the rise of the speedier access to the big data. So that was definitely a big thing. So this accelerates the growth of course, e-commerce, social medias. I don't want to talk about too much about it. You probably, might see the, movies like, Netflix movie like Social Dilemma, right? So there's a lot of challenges about the social media. So I don't want to talk about it. But at the same time, as we, say the recommendation engine, which is led by the AI, artificial intelligence, that's definitely a big thing too. So in this 2020s, as the data latency shortened and the algorithm of the AI probably keeps improving, right? So this progress should enable new technologies, right? Including more like a conversational AI, as you know, you can talk to Google, you can talk to Siri, and of course the massive internet things and the augmented reality and virtual reality. Yeah, those are probably what's coming up, and so those, and the AI and big data took off. That's going to change our payment method, social media views, online searches, app users, and everything, right? So those things all leave a really extensive digital trail, right? Creating the gigabytes of data from each user, like us. So that's a definitely big change, right? So let's say as the data has become more accessible, as the AI has continued to spot the pattern of the user behavior, right? So that what Mike does in the morning, what Mike does in the lunchtime, how the Mike does in the afternoon, right? And the time, place, and location. So those data spot the user behavior patterns. So that's gonna actually make definitely better AI, right? But what I'm hoping for is, as you say, those AIs are a little scary, especially for the kids, right? I don't want, like you say, everybody's kids to be, observed and the AI knows everything about their kids. That's really scary, right? So of course, what I'm hoping for using this technology you can probably rely on to the more human-centered design and the meaningful experience for the more in the humanized process. That's what I'm hoping for, where we are heading to.
Have you watched this new documentary, Coded Bias on Netflix?
Oh yes, yeah.
It's quite
all those things are a little scary, right?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah. Starting from the Black Mirror, I guess they started this path of scary movies. And dear guests, I really highly recommend you to text us the questions or the topics which you want to discuss. They could be dedicated to, I don't know, technologies, user experience, technologies, and user experience with the technologies. So you see that we have really great guy here, so we could discuss it and ask what is the opinion from another side of the ocean. And before our guests will be thinking, I would like to talk about your laboratory, UX laboratory. So I remember the story, how you've built a UX laboratory. Could you tell us more about it and also tell us more about your vision of experiments in UX research?
Yeah, definitely. So it's going to go back probably 2-3 decades ago, right?
Whoa.
So when we started, designing it, we always wanted to kind of test something. In my first project, I think, I was designing for the 2 years old. Some kids play game on the desktop at that time. Of course, there's no mobile devices, no tablet or anything. So we thought about, maybe just those little kids can tap in the keyboard. Of course, they don't know what the key they are tapping. But how about they, after you tap the keyboard, they can start creating the music, right? So we come up with those ideas, just made a prototype and everything, right? We definitely have to study because we don't know nothing about 2 years old, right? Of course, at that time, I don't think I even have a kid. So we should definitely work testing it. That's how kind of, my testing kind of started with the user, right? Of course, and then I started as a usability testing, as a usability analyst, right? So, supporting the usability is a good thing, but as you broaden your kind of testing and research, doing the prototype test, then start interviewing a lot of people, then, form the focus group. So yours, the basic study broadened up. So I'm a UX specialist. So I can really spot the usability part, right? What's wrong, what's not right, what's a frustration for the kids, and even with one-on-one session, right? But as you broaden your studies, I soon realized, especially for my company, I'm not the really educator. I don't know how kids actually learn, right? So that's a kind of start, broaden up the studies, soon realizing, maybe I'm not good enough, right? Yeah, at the first time, of course, I formed a team of designers trying to moderate the sessions, user test sessions, try to observe them, and try to make a notes and try to do the presentation of the larger audience in the company, right? But again, realizing, I don't know nothing about the learning aspects of that, right? So soon realizing, oh God, I'm not good enough. Let's hire the specialists, right? So we hire those people in the PhD in the cognitive science or early learning, right? So my kind of database suddenly broadened up, not just the design perspective, from the educational perspective too. So that's how I kind of start building the team in the age of learning. That was definitely one of the best things we have ever done, right? So right now, every time we, let's say, build a new feature or new content, we have a luxury of testing out. And the one thing that I kind of want to mention is, of course, this COVID, right? So we built the usability lab in the company. So every week we usually invite 3 to 4 kids after school, right? And test something out. Sometimes it's a paper prototype, sometimes it's a build, sometimes it's a live product, right? With the parents. So, kids come with the parents, so we can, while kids are using the those apps or something we build, we can always ask the parents about the interview, right? So those are kind of 2 really good processes we had. However, when this COVID started, of course we cannot go to the office, right? I'm still not going to the office, after the year. I'm still here at home. So how can we keep testing it, right? Of course, we got to keep testing it because we don't want to stop the producing any design on the product or feature. So we continue studying. Of course, we hire those kids and parents who is like using those in the home device, right? Then we start realizing, oh my goodness, this is totally different, right? When you invite the kids to our test room, kids are usually motivated and excited. Oh, this is the ABC mouse, the group or whatever. I see, the totally flat, white painted room with nothing on it, right? We have, some stuffy animals or some, figures to make feel comfortable. But in the real house environment, kids behave totally differently, right? There's lots of distractions. There's a siblings when, hey, can you try to, play this game? Of course, some siblings steps in, mom's kind of calling from the, the background. So, we discover the new things. So it's more like a real use case, right? How actually kids use our product in their environment, right? Yeah, so that was definitely interesting finding. Yeah.
I really like the IKEA approach because they always understand that it's really important. Once I was at the workshop with a guy, he is also from New York, and he had the project with IKEA, and he said that they do the same. So they hired a huge team of people. These people, they go to the houses of some just regular people and watch how do they do their lamps, their chairs, their beds, not like in their environment. So not somewhere, not in the shop, but they understand like, okay, people usually have the problem with a central light. They don't understand, okay, we will fix it and we will create some lamp which will be stuck in the corner. And it will stay, because they would do, for example, homework in the corner and it's dark. Yeah. So it's really important. And I always remind to my students that the environment, the context is really important. And it's not just the app which you are building. How will people use it? It's really important. Yeah. Thank you for this.
Yeah, like, 10 years ago, of course, I did a lot of like, home studies. Like, again, I have to bring the laptop, desktop to their house to do the testing. But right now, like, have a Zoom, we can easily do the testing as long as they have a device and those, testable items available in the cloud, right? That's all accessible. So what an amazing time.
So you like everything, not everything, but I mean these remote changes which happened during the last year. So you like it, I guess.
Yeah, it's just bring the different perspective, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, let's jump to another question. So what is the best way to study and teach the UX research methodologies from kids to practitioners?
Interesting. So, as you guys probably know, there are two main types of user researches, right?
Yeah.
One's quantitative research, right? Based on the statistics, can be calculated and computed, and focus on the numbers and mathematical calculation. That's one, right? But and there's of course the another one is a qualitative research, like providing the insight and concerned with descriptions, which can be observed but cannot be computed, right? So those are two types of researches. So let's see how the best way to study and teach the UX methodology. So I would say whatever you have, just study with something like small, right? Of course, again, it takes time to build a user research lab or something. So just start with something new. And as designers, everybody doing probably to build a prototype. So always prototype is allowing the creative group to explore ideas before implementing them to the build, right? So just try to create some sort of mock-ups, either paper mocks or interactive pages or whatever. Then try to test with somebody, right? That's definitely a start, right? Then, of course, you as a designer, you probably find some kind of usability issues, right? And identifying the pain points, frustrations, problems in the one of the real life people. Yeah. So that's definitely, somebody you gotta start from somewhere, Then again, you can broaden up, more like interviews, right? And one-on-one discussion with users, how this particular, the user works. Then, maybe broaden up the focus group or surveys, trying to get a little more larger data, right? And the focus group is more like a moderated discussion with a group of users, allowing insight into the user attitudes and ideas and desires, right? So we can easily ask them, hey, what's wrong with our product? What do you want in our product? That kind of question, right? Really simple. And of course, surveys, of course, there's a bunch of online survey tools available, right? So you can kind of distribute it, many people to get a lot of information in the short amount of time. Yeah.
Did you do any experiments in the classical methodologies of research? Have you ever did something new? Like, okay, I understand that in this way it will be better. Or maybe you discovered something from your experience.
Yeah, so let's see. Again, so we try to use, of course, we are trying to, to build the app, right? So our final product is on the devices. Yeah, right. But of course, we want to kind of prove the concept early enough, right? If this kind of, let's say, if we are trying to build one game, if this game actually, besides they can, play with fun and engaging play, but can they actually learn something from the app? So that's definitely the most valuable stuff for our company, right? So doing that, we actually do a lot of testing with really low material. Sometimes we have, 50 printouts trying to see how actually kids create the scenes using those paper cut material, right? So those are kind of, not really a standard user testing or, testing, but, just observing, let's say, we wanted to build some kind of, like more like a programmatic, the build material, right? Yeah, they try to build something using this in the digital space. But, that type of experience we are thinking about, let's say, there's 10 parts, try to build a robot with this, right? That kind of thing. Idea is good, but I don't know how they can actually, compose those ideas, right? Is that 10 piece enough or 10 piece not enough? Those type of questions can be tested in the real raw material, So we prepare 50 printouts, cut it out those circles and the triangles, everything, and try to observe, hey, let's try this. Can you start to build something with this? And of course, kids build a totally different stuff, right? Some kids try to, make a flowers. Some kids, try to make a robot. Then we learn, these are tendency what kids want to actually build. Maybe it's not the robot kids want to build, right? Yeah, they want to try to build, their further phase or something. So, those kind of definitely are explained more in the, basement level. Yeah, but it's always been fun. Yeah.
Cool. We have the question from Olesa, and she asks, like, what are the fields other than design related that you draw inspiration, information from?
Oh, I would say from people in the daily life, right? Yeah. As I grow up in the big city like Tokyo, like I always, fascinated by the people, right? So, just observing the people, how they behave, what they are interested in, always inspires me. Yeah. And that's a kind of, drawback, the situation like this, if I go out, nobody's at the town like used to be. So I can't really do that anymore, right? Yeah.
Cool. I totally agree with you because I always like, sometimes it's even creepy, but in the evening after my day of work, hard work, I really like to walk by the streets to watch the people. How do they behave? How do they act with just typical stuff? And also sometimes it's creepy because sometimes I really like to stare to their windows, to the second floor, to the third floor. What are the cabinets on their walls? How do they use that? Especially what is the light? How do they behave? How do they even pass through each other? And it's really cool. I really like, and every time when I meet with my friends, I always watch, how do they take the glass? How do they communicate? How do they interrupt other people? When do they do that? It's so interesting because after that, you have so much experience and you can use that or even for yourself. So it's really cool. I totally agree.
Yeah. And, as the other thing, of course, is the obvious thing, there's a lots of the products available everywhere. So it's something I find something really interesting. I try to download it, try to use it, and they evaluate how good they are doing or how bad they are doing. So that's definitely inspirational too, right?
So okay, so we have the question about kaizen philosophy. Maybe you know it. Kaizen, kaizen.
Kaizen improving? Yeah.
I guess because we have even like I have this in Japanese language written here on YouTube, but I can't read it. So kaizen philosophy is in organizing my research process. Do you know about kaizen? Or maybe I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Or what do you think of this philosophy in the design process?
You know what? I know the word kaizen, but I probably don't know the philosophy too well. But that means improvements, right? So what I'm guessing, let me guess that. So kaizen means improvements. That means more like an incremental process to try to make some changes, right? So as a designer, we always come with some really big ideas. Oh, this is one of the best ideas I ever come up with, right? To make that happen, we can't really build that instantly. There should be steps to get there.
Yeah.
So those are kind of implemental process, right? Maybe that's a kaizen process. Try to, test something smaller, prove it's working. Then what's the next step, right? So it's not just trying to let's spend the next 6 months, try to build this big idea. Rather than doing it, it's more like break it down to a big idea to smaller chunks. So it's digestible, right? Try to test a small piece first and try to improve it, right? Sometimes your foundation idea, like, we talk about those, the robot making, the apps, right? Maybe foundation ideas may not be right. Like, again, kids don't want to probably build the robot. Kids want to build something else. So that kind of thing. Try to, start with a smaller thing. Try to test out in the smaller chunks. Try to improve and incremental changes to get to the bigger goal. I believe that's what it is, but I have to study about that. There's a lot of there's a lot of Japanese word, they're implemented to the, this industry. Sometimes I don't know, sometimes I do. Yeah. One of the things, our team definitely do the Scrum and the Kanban. And those Kanban is the word for the Japanese means just a signage. So really Kanban doesn't mean anything to me, but as I read it, I now got it. Those are the processes they're trying to implement. There's a lot of Kanbans, Yeah. So
Cool.
I always learn something from you guys. That's a fascinating part.
Cool. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move forward. And thank you guys for your questions. And by the way, I would ask you, please, all the people who watch here, our conversation, please, if you like our conversation, press like button, please, just in case if other people would like to join us, they will see that it's cool and they will watch it. So let's move. I have a few more questions. So recently we spoke to Alan Cooper and new technologies such as 3D printers, VR and AR. How do these and other technologies change the user experience from your perspective?
Okay. Yeah, so VR and 3D printing. Yeah, it's for sure, for us, is creating even higher demand for the 3D arts and the 3D designs, right? So with that said, the UI, your user interface, is no longer confined to those flat, two-dimensional rectangular, right? So it's kind of essential to understand the spaces, more like architecture, right? With spatial thinking, right? And the design, those spatial UI elements in the space. So, I'm sure, the people you play the computer games, gamers are already, I believe, familiar with many of these concepts and grasp the importance of each style of spatial UI elements, right? So that means, let's say your type of inputs are probably broadened, right? Definitely more gestures. It's not just, tapping the flat surface with tap and drag and everything. It's more spatial things, right? And of course, the eye tracking, the gazing matters. And of course, the voice yeah, could be definitely one of the command you can just input, right? Oh, try to avoid this, kind of thing, right? Yeah, so those are probably, the big changes for the user experience part. So, there's definitely, of course, those are AR, VR use a little bit more hardware, right? So there's different type of inputs, right? It could be a platform specific, of course, touch and click controllers and the game controllers. Yeah, those are definitely different. And of course, the feedback you're getting, the sound too, right? Sound doesn't always come up with the monitor or, speakers. It could be a little bit more dimensional sound, or I hear something, from the back of me or, in front of me, right? So those are different feedbacks. And of course, they are, throughout those devices, you get more haptic feedback, right? Yeah.
Cool. And do you think about implementing VR and AR? Maybe you have some experience implementing to the game industry. I mean, for the kids and for the education. How do you use that?
Yeah, of course, I know our product actually has a little bit about it, but it's not that intensive. But I know actually a lot of kids in the States, including, my kids, when probably, of course, 5-6 years ago, where they are in the classroom, they are learning about the history, right? Like a Roman, they are the soldiers or whatever. So those are really interesting. You put those devices and you actually go to that place to learn about the history, what happened in there. Of course, it's it's not reality. It's a virtual reality, right? But I thought that was kind of very interesting rather than just reading the book, looking at the pictures, you kind of go to that, the environment, right? But again, these kids these days are all familiar with those, virtual world, just playing the games, right? They already know those 3D world. Yeah, they are really familiar with it. So, so they don't have any kind of hesitance actually going, wearing that and going to that environment to try to learn something. So, we can definitely align those textbook, the knowledge into those 3D world, which is great. Yeah.
But all the previous experience, it almost doesn't work because of this 3D, and now we do. I guess that it's the new age when we start from the beginning, almost from the beginning. So as you said, so all the previous controllers, they don't work. The sound works differently. The controllers work differently. So the brain works differently. So how can we be alive with everything? Should we start from the beginning, or how do we need to do these experiments?
Yeah, I'm really not so big fan of those AR, VR for the learning, but especially for the little kids, maybe not that usable yet, right? Yeah. But again, our, the data becomes, big data becomes available, and our connection, the speed, getting faster. So there may be, of course, more like switched way to learn something. Right now, if you want to get to really heavy those AR, VR environment, you got to wear a lot of stuff, right? Which is definitely a barrier, right? Right now, just grabbing the phone, you can do a lot of stuff. Why do you have to wear other devices, right? Even those Google glasses, I know the people wearing them, but no longer wearing them anymore, right? So it's a little barrier to try to introduce the new hardware. So that's always been the barrier, right? So how can we, decrease the hardware to be more software based? That's definitely be a challenge. Yeah, but that I think they will come. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. We have a really interesting question. What was the last insight in your practice that blows your mind?
Blows my mind. Oh, yeah. So interesting. So let's say, it's every time I do actually user testing, right? There's always a moment, aha moment. Oh God, let's say, especially, the making the product for the youth and kids market for a long time. Yeah, I was surprised how technology savvy the kids becomes every year, right? Again, 5 years ago, I remember, when we are testing those application on the desktop or mobile, I believe lots of 5 years old were able to use the mouse, right? No problem at all, right? And of course, at that time, some kids are having a hard time about making the little harder gesture, like doing the double gestures like this, right? But for now, at this moment, 2020 or 2021, I know that lots of kids really cannot use mouse at all. Some kids actually never seen it. What is this? Right? So those are definitely a harm. Okay, I know we are not really trying to, design for the desktop first, design for the mobile devices, but how quick those are kind of shifting is really amazing. And I know, lots of kids right now, even need to teach anything on the, hey, can you try to use my app? And they naturally taps, naturally swipes, naturally do the double gestures. That's amazing. Like, where did you learn? But that's of course they learn from when they're born. They already have a devices home, right? Yeah, so that's definitely an amazing moment. Yeah, little things, but it's gradually, it's really changing quickly. Yeah.
And did you try to explore or investigate why it's happening with them? So how do they learn everything so fast? Because we didn't do that.
Yeah, probably availability. In the States, I probably, many of you guys have probably heard about the big supermarket like Walmart, right? Of course, as you see the Apple iPad, when you go to the Apple website, those are still expensive device, right? Yeah, but when you go to the store like Walmart, you can find a tablet, the big data tablet in probably $20. So those are definitely much cheaper than buying the Lego, right? So, and of course, if you buy the device, if you pay 99 cents or something, you can download a lot of app and toy, right? So those device availability is amazing, That's what it changes, for they naturally learn. And of course, as a designer, we definitely kind of humanize those design process, right? So as we learn about how the kids, use the device, how kids use the whatever it is. So we learn from them, and we try to implement the replicate that experience in the two-dimensional spaces. So kids naturally knows, this guy's waving, I'm gonna tap him, right? Or this guy's like doing, hey, Mike. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely talk to Mike, right? So, as a designer, we get better to implement the real, the life scenario into the devices. So kids are kind of natural to actually, using that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. It's interesting that the technologies go so fast to the audience. We have a really interesting question. In your opinion, when would you expect the sense of smell and taste to be accessible in design, and how and how would you test them?
That's I know lots of cosmetic companies actually trying to do it. Yeah, it's a fascinating process how they try to do that. But again, like VR AR thing, there's still a little way to go. But I love actually, I can smell something while I'm playing the game or something, right? That would be amazing. I'm not the engineer, so some engineer have to come up with that to be make available for everybody.
Cool. And okay, but how would you test those? If it will be available, how would you test those? How do you think that it will happen?
How would you test it? Of course, in again, paper prototype, the scenario, right? Yeah, you kind of start with the raw material, right? Yeah, of course, I don't know that the smell is probably a little different sense. So, but you can definitely bring your own smell into the world and try to testing something. And we gotta come up with how can we do that in the digital environment? That's a different story, right? That requires some technology to do that, or maybe some device to do that, right? Yeah, but it's definitely doable. Yeah, and as you guys probably, some of you guys already know, some companies already doing it. Yeah.
Cool. I can't wait. Sometimes it's creepy because I understand that there won't be only good smells, but
that's right.
So Let's talk about sociology and psychology researches when we investigate the UX. How important are these disciplines and how do you use them, if you do?
Interesting. Okay. So I would say, sociologists and psychologists all can make a great UX designers for sure, because it all begins with the people, right?
Yeah.
Because they start with a deep empathy, empathetic curiosity about the users. So that's how we started. So, another thing as a UX designer, the information gathering from, those people are definitely, valuable. Listen to them and studying those users, right? So, after you collecting those informations, of course, you are architecting those information to be a usable chunk, right? And those test and explore ways to, reach those people, right? Yeah. So, so that's definitely, the definitely good to know those aspects. And if you are coming from those areas, actually, I see actually lots of people, who wanted to be, user experience designer from those specialties too, Yeah.
Cool, thank you. We have the follow-up question. Please share your vision if there are tendencies in the field to work on products that are combining HCI and social science. For instance, develop products with a focus on social innovations, socialization, focusing physical, physical communication rather than virtual, I'm sorry.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So, of course, some of our products actually go to the school environment, right? So it's not just, one-on-one, the environment, it's used in the group, So before this company, actually, I actually did the, so let's say there's a, presidential museum here in California, right? Ronald Reagan Library and Museum. So they do have, of course, Reagan lives in the 1980s, 1990s, right? So they try to actually replicate that, time and try to teach kids, of course, how that, that time in the US was, among the world, right? So they do have those really intensive, like a tour kind of class, right? So we, of course, we were asked to actually create, can we bring that experience, not just the paper and the pens, more in the digital environment, right? So, we created an app, instead of, gathering those, the manila, envelopes and papers and pens, we put everything in the digital, right? In the iPad, and of course they purchased, I don't know, hundreds of iPads there, right? So every time they invite a classroom, they have like 60 students who's gonna be in that room, try to learn about how does it look like in 1980s in the States, right? So after we actually did that, right? We discovered, if you are among your friends, they don't want to actually use their own device because they just look at somebody's device and try to commenting something, right? Rather than each one try to take the quiz, they just naturally gathered from the group and just try to use one tablet to 10 people and say communicating it. Oh, see, this is the kind of stuff as a designer, I don't know about that, right? So it's more like a human gathering. It's a human nature. If you are among the group of people, you always, from the school, classroom, you always get to be with your friends, right? And you don't want to just do yourself, because you have your friends, just sharing what they think, what they learn is definitely a big part of learning, right? So those are very impactful, like, oh God, we shouldn't really buy those 100 devices. It could be with like 5 devices, right? Yeah, so those are kind of, very interesting thing I, experienced. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I got out of my questions. We don't have any questions in the chat. So Takeshi, it was wonderful. Wait, we have one more message. So Since usage of recognizable UI patterns is usually better for user experience, how do we innovate in our field? It feels something that new technologies still use same old patterns. When do we decide it's okay to create new patterns that might need learning but improve future experience?
When is a good time? It's, every moment is a good time to test. If you come up with some, in a brand new UI elements and method to do that, again, try to test them out. It's working for that little one or not? Like, again, how amazing those, little ones, try to observe the new technology, the new way of learning is just amazing, So again, if you come up with some new ideas, try to make it digestible chunk and try to test with at least like 1 or 2 people to start. Yeah, we gotta start from somewhere. So, I definitely encourage everyone to actually do that. Yeah.
So all innovations start from with one person, not just
definitely. Again, my favorite word for the, Einstein, logic will get you from A to B, but the imagination will take you everywhere, right? So again, getting the data and getting the user research data and those, big number data is great. But it's always, I believe, the designer's imagination. That's going to bring us to the next phase.
Cool, thank you. One more question. Is increasing of cryptocurrency, decentralized finance, NFT change UX in any way?
Interesting. Of course, I'm not a financial specialist, but I'm sure that's going to definitely change, the payment method, right? And of course, investment. So that will definitely have an impact. Right now, there's a lot of talk right now. I really don't see that's happening in the real world right now. But, just a perception or expectation of that digital currency, that's going to actually, impact a lot of areas, right? Yeah. Especially the world we live in, everything is based on the money or currency, right? Yeah. So you can easily probably imagine. Yeah.
Cool. Now that's it. I guess that's it. We need to give you the time for work. So thank you so much, Takeshi. It was amazing, and your mood and your vibes are they are even like I feel them through the ocean. So thank you so much. It was amazing. It was a pleasure to meet with you. Thank you guys for your questions. It was really interesting to talk, and I got a lot of joys today. So thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Bye.